everyone. I'm still working on trying to have a solidified intro, but I wanted to begin by saying that this episode is one that falls close to my heart. My sweet husband, Jamal, someone who I see as kind and full of light, is sharing his personal experiences and journey through defining love. And in doing so, he reveals a secret that he held from me while we were at the beginning of courting. I hope you enjoy hearing his story and the conversation that we have throughout. And as always, I love you. First off, I just want to say I love you so much. And wallahi, genuinely thank you so much for supporting me in this project. This is something very odd. And I know it's also very uncomfortable for the both of us because we're pretty, I would say, despite us doing like hee-hees and ha-has on the internet, we're pretty private.
Oh, yeah.
As people. I would say objectively, we're pretty private, including like friends and family. We just kind of keep in our own little cocoon.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So I really do thank you so much for being here and sharing your feelings. So without further ado, everyone, this is Jamal, my love.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. I am excited for this as well. So, when you first invited me on the podcast and you asked me to talk about love and to talk about the different stages of my life, the masculinity, and how to define love or share love, honestly, I didn't quite know how to even start this conversation, you know? And my knee jerk reaction was to just naturally think about my childhood.
Jamal begins the episode by sharing what it was like for him growing up. One of the things that I observed while getting to know him is how stable his family unit felt to me. Jamal would describe his family, though not being the most affectionate bunch, were not void of love entirely. It just looked different.
Alhamdulillah, I grew up with both my parents, with a full family, with uncles and aunts and nephews, nieces, and brothers and sisters. Like, I had it all, alhamdulillah. There was no major drama in my childhood growing up. My parents provided for me. They made life really easy for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we weren't always the most loving family. And by that, I'm saying like we weren't super affectionate with our words. We
Right.
weren't physically affectionate, but we were there for each other. My parents would go out of their way for me. Same with my siblings. Like we all cared for each other.
But you never said like I love yous at the end of phone calls.
Now, rarely we would say like I love you at the end of the phone call, but my parents planning a trip for us to go to, Disneyland or even a trip to the park, like I see that as ways that they express their love to me. Or when my sister is making herself, I don't know, some food like avocado toast, and she makes me an extra slice just for me.
So
At
it's
that,
the action.
yeah, it's the action, it's the thought behind it.
Just to summarize what you were saying, the theatrics of love isn't something you're familiar with. The theatrics that we see on TV. So this like coming and crying and laughing together
No,
kind of
no,
situation isn't what you're familiar with.
no.
But you were familiar with actions equating love, right? So
Yes.
somebody got up in the morning and drove you to school, that meant they loved me. If somebody gave
Hmm.
me that extra piece of toast, that meant they loved me.
Yeah.
Now I have a question for you, Jamal. When did that definition of love, action equaling love, change?
That changed around the peak of the pandemic. After I had graduated, I got an engineering degree, started working, started traveling here and there for work. And now that I didn't have the distraction of school or the constant grind of, oh, okay, I'm gonna graduate, I'm gonna get this degree, I'm gonna get this job. Now that that was out the way, I was kind of left with a feeling of loneliness, like an emptiness. Like there was something void in my life that I needed. And the desire to belong with someone got stronger and stronger each and every day. I was lonely because I knew I was missing something in my life. I had Islam in my life, I had my family, and I had my friends. but I was still missing something. And what I realized was that I was missing a companion. I was missing for someone to experience life with me. But not only that, I was missing someone who can accept me for who I am, who understands me.
Loneliness, a feeling that many of us had felt during the height of the pandemic, being away from loved ones, and for many new graduates, starting to reflect on what life would look like now that the rush and grind of school was no longer there. Jamal starts describing this loneliness he felt despite being filled with people in his life. He's beginning to reflect on the type of person he wants and how that person needed to be different than anyone else or anything else he's experienced.
So growing up, I never once thought about companionship and love. But the older I got, the more and more I started to think about it. And naturally, that led me to the person who I'm sitting across the table from right now.
But before we get into that, your definition hasn't changed though, right, at this point. So you're still in the pandemic, right? You're now open to partnership, something that you haven't thought of thus part in your life, right? But you're still thinking, okay, action equals love. I have to act, do something for someone to feel or let them know that I am in love with them. I am showing them love.
Yeah.
I just want to confirm that for people. Like the definition of love has not changed for you. Action equals love.
Mm-hmm.
You do things for the person that you care about.
Yes.
Now introduce it's so funny because it's like me. But so now you're meeting someone. Can you give us a little background about how that happened and what that meant for you at that time?
Well, I don't want to give away the full story of how I met you. I feel like that could be saved for a different podcast episode.
Yeah.
However, I will say this: when I met you, it wasn't coincidental, or it wasn't like, oh, it just so happened to be.
Qadr of Allah, definitely.
Yes, Qadr of Allah, it was all planned. However, when I met you and I started speaking to you, I knew that I wanted to be with you. I knew that I was looking for someone, for that important person in my life who I can call my wife, who I can call the love of my life. Even though the definition of love is still the same, I was still actively looking for someone who understands me.
Did you not feel understood in your family or friend groups?
I felt that I felt that when it came to my friends and family, there were certain emotions that I just didn't naturally want to express to them. Um, these emotions were the emotions that made me sensitive and vulnerable,
Mm.
and I kept most of those emotions to myself. I never expressed any of my insecurities to the best of my abilities. I try to keep it to myself. So when I was looking for a companion, I was looking for someone to know my insecurities, to know.
I think it's very beautiful that you wanted to find someone. You sought out vulnerability, right? You wanted to be vulnerable to someone. And in turn, that vulnerability would allow you to share, make you feel like you could share a life with that person, you know? So I ask you this because it seems like for you that the status quo of love that you were used to wasn't sitting well with you anymore. It wasn't enough to not be physically affectionate or give words of affirmation. You wanted somebody to have a little bit more of a raw and emotional conversation with.
Yeah, I wanted someone to understand my emotions. I wanted someone to understand how I was who I am, if that makes sense.
That makes sense.
I wanted someone to hear me, like to hear my story or to hear my problems without ever feeling like as if I was being judged
That's
or
fair.
having those emotions or feelings used against me. So by having a companion, someone who loves me and who truly cares about me, I know that I can be vulnerable with them. I can express myself with them. And I won't have to hold back. I won't feel shamed in any way.
What about what you could provide to them? If you're somebody who's not familiar with that, were you seeking out a companion that you could also, listen to, hear, care for, express a different type of love to? Or were you just going to be, someone who showed them action?
I was willing to do anything to make that person happy. And I knew that I didn't quite have the most experience with showing emotional support, but I knew that I can provide for them in that way if I really wanted to show them how much I love them.
So you were willing to learn a different type of.
I was willing to learn how to love.
You're so corny. So now let's focus on who that person is, right? And you don't have to stare at me while we have this conversation if that makes you uncomfy.
It
But
doesn't make me uncomfy.
but how did you know that I was a person that you could love? Like how was that clear?
When I first met you, I was fully aware that I was ready for a relationship because that's what I was looking for. I was looking for a companion. I was looking for someone to marry, someone to have in my life. So I didn't quite know exactly what it meant to maintain a relationship, but I knew that's what I wanted. I could see from other people's interactions with their partner that that's what I wanted as well. I wanted someone to feel vulnerable with. I wanted to have someone that can experience my life as well besides me, and I can experience their life. When I first met you, one thing I did love about you that I had to learn was that you loved writing letters. In particular, you loved writing love letters. And that put me in this position where now I have no other choice but to confront love and to like put it into words or try to learn what it is so I can express it to you so you know that I love you. That's something I never had to do with anyone else. Like I don't have to convince my parents, my siblings that I love them. They can just know. You know, kind of same with my friends. I don't have to tell them I love them. They know by me being around them all the time, hanging out with them, doing stuff for them that I love them. But with you, being around and doing stuff for you just wasn't enough. I had to express that love in words to you. I had to write it down for you so you can see it, so you can read it. Because that's the way that you grew up with love. You know, that's the way that you wanted to be loved. So I had to learn that. And in the process of learning that, I was introduced to the theatrical love in a sense that I didn't know anything about growing up as a kid.
I think that's very funny actually, which is making me laugh because I think I grew up in a very loud and beautiful kind of household where we constantly yelled how much we loved each other in like a really kind of gross way. Like I got a lot of kisses and hugs from both my parents. Like you knew their exact emotion, good or bad, the second they felt it. Like nothing was like under the rug. It was a very loud and emotional family. And so that's why when I got to meet you and you're mashallah mubarak, like you're a very like quiet, chill kind of guy, very much so like I'll handle all of the stresses of your life if we can just do it in silence. And I was not that person. I was like, I need you to know how I feel, and I need to know in writing, like sworn, notarized, exactly
Yeah.
how you feel. Like I need to know it's true, you know? And that's just how I understood love. So I think it's almost kind of funny now that that's something you brought up because that was honestly really unexpected. But yeah, that was that was, I think, something to get used to. But I would say, I don't know how you felt about it, but I really loved reading all your love letters.
I liked it too, because after a while, I started having fun with it. Because before, I would just go to like Hallmark and I'll get like a card from there, and I'll write some stuff.
Hallmark?
Yeah, Hallmark has a store.
Hallmark the movies?
Hallmark the movie also has Hallmark the store.
Are you serious?
You can go in. Yeah, I know this because I got a membership when I started dating you. I mean, not dating, but when I started, talking to you, getting to know you, courts. When I started to court you,
You got a membership? I had no
I got a
idea.
membership, and one of the things they include in the membership is a free card every month.
Are you serious?
Every month at the beginning of the month, I would submit my little coupon. It was all virtual. So I'll submit my little coupon virtually, and I'll go pick up my card. And I'll go write stuff on it for you.
Why is that so cute?
And there'll be a bunch of other like knickknacks that are in the Hallmark store that I'll give to you as I'm giving you the card.
Are you serious?
So that's why I said I started having fun with it, because I stopped buying those cards and I started making the cards out of like paper and stuff, And the reason why I started doing that is because there was one time I was trying to get you a present. So I got you flowers and stuff, and I was running late to get the card from the store. So I just found like a colored paper at my house. I folded it up with crayons and markers. I just started writing on it, And you like that more than the official letters that I'll get from the Hallmark store or from the grocery store.
Because I thought it was so funny.
Exactly. So I had to learn how to love, in a sense. And I started, well, the funny thing is that I try to mimic what I saw on the media, on TV and stuff like that. That's how I try to show it, because I didn't know the theatrical parts of love. So the stuff that I knew was the stuff that I watched growing up. I had to learn that's not always the ideal way to approach someone when you want to love them.
Yeah. Could be love bombing.
It could be love bombing, which I would not be shocked if you accused me of love bombing. Because remember how, because if you think about it, right?
Yeah.
If I grew up knowing that love was shown to someone by providing things for them.
Yeah.
Showing that you're there.
Yeah.
Giving them services, things that they need, things that they want, making their life comfortable, right?
Yes.
So because of that, I would get you a whole bunch of things.
You did.
And I would profusely let you know that I love you, just so you know.
Yeah.
In case the gifts aren't working, in case me doing stuff isn't working, I'm letting you know, hey, I love you,
Yeah.
And
I knew you were sprung when you were starting to fix the drawers in our house.
Yeah.
You were bringing the toolbox out, and next thing you know, all the drawers that were like loose in our house was fixed. And my dad was like so surprised. He was like, "Oh, okay."
That is an act of love.
That was a beautiful act of love.
Because that's me going out of my way to provide a convenience for you.
Yeah. So it's kind of like a mix of what you were talking about. It's the love that you had grown up with, right? And then some of the showing the loves that I was more used to. I'm sorry for interrupting, but
no, because this basically shows the way that I learned to love you was by doing every possible language of love until the one that works hits.
Yeah.
Once I realize certain things make more sense to you, then I'll tailor it towards you.
Right.
I'll tailor that love so that it works for you. And that's what I was hoping to find in a companion as well, where they tailor their definition of love for me so that I can also feel like as if I'm loved.
Did you feel, because I'm more of like, I came out the gate just being a lot more talkative, and I'm a chatterbox. So I would just like tell you how I felt about you. I let it know very clearly at the beginning my intentions and how I expected to be courted and what I felt about you, what I had felt about you back in like college and things of that sorts.
That's what drew me back to you. That's why I remembered you. That's one of the reasons why I knew that I wanted to be with you, was because one of our first interactions, we spent a good amount of time talking.
Yeah.
Longer than I normally would with anyone who I just met, fresh at that moment.
Yeah.
And once I realized that's your personality, you're a person who loves to talk, to express themselves, I was drawn towards that
Mm.
because I didn't grow up expressing myself. When I'm meeting someone new, I wouldn't talk too much to them.
Right.
You know, I'll get to know them first little by little, and then they'll see my character.
Mm.
Whereas when I first met you, it felt like as if I was seeing you for who you were right then and there. You know.
Yeah, you read me like a book. I'm pretty open.
Mm-hmm.
Open to an extent. I want to say I had boundaries, but I was pretty like communicative, like of random things. With now trying to transition a bit because I think we went on a tangent because I was genuinely really surprised about the Hallmark thing. And it just made me think about like how funny and corny we were when we were getting to know each other.
Mm-hmm.
There was something brewing in the background of while we were courting, right? There was something that you were dealing with.
Oh yeah, I kept
And
hiding
so
certain things from you.
yeah, there was something you were hiding. And I don't
Yeah.
know if you want to, I know inshallah we said we would feel, if you felt comfortable, you would bring that up here. And so
Yeah.
I want to give you that space now to talk about it.
I feel comfortable speaking about it because now it's a known fact about me, and I don't feel any type of way about it. But when I first was getting to know you,
Yeah.
I had just got diagnosed with lupus. And for those of you that don't know that are listening, lupus is an autoimmune disease, and there's two, I guess, versions of lupus. There's discoid lupus and there's systematic lupus, right? Alhamdulillah, the one that I have is the lesser of the two when it comes to symptoms. But unfortunately, those symptoms are mostly
Physical.
appearances and physical. For example, the biggest nightmare any man can experience was balding.
Yeah.
And discoid lupus quickens it up very quickly so that a lot of people can notice it.
We were young, dumb, and very much in love. We had a family base that was very supportive of us. And at that point, I thought we were very communicative. For that reason, learning that Jamal was hiding some serious battles from me was incredibly shocking.
Basically, when I found out that I had lupus, I didn't quite believe it. So I kept it to myself. I didn't tell a lot of people.
Yeah, but went to several doctors, right?
Exactly.
You had gone a biopsy done. You were
I was in and out of the hospital a lot.
Yeah.
And I was in and out of the hospital a lot while I was talking to you. And you would ask me, and I would say, oh, just check-ins, doctors.
I remember being so surprised because you never lied about where you were. You were just like, yeah, I just have another appointment.
Yeah, I'm just
and at the time,
drawn.
Yeah, I was like, oh wow, this guy really loves his annual checkups.
Yeah. Yeah. It went from me never going to the doctors, rarely going to the dentist, only going to the eye doctor because I needed glasses, to me going to the doctor like 3-4 times a year.
I think 3 to 4 is like an understatement, Jamal. Like in the short period you were like in the first 3 to 4 months, you were going like 5, like you went several times, whether that to be like blood work done, whether that be like an appointment, a dermatologist, like you were going to several doctors and specialists.
Technically, I was in an appointment when we were first supposed to meet.
Yeah.
If you remember that.
Yeah. That was actually hilarious, but that's a story for another episode, I think.
But I was hiding that, not just from you, I was hiding it from a lot of people.
Yeah.
My closest friends didn't know. My mom was the first person to find out, but she found out like several weeks later, and
several weeks after the diagnosis was official.
After the diagnosis was official.
So you spent a couple months because it takes a long time to get diagnosed.
Yeah. So I was going through it summertime of 2021. I was balding. I was having rashes on my arm. I couldn't be out in the sun for too long because once I'm exposed to the sun, my skin starts to flare up. I was getting fatigued. I was getting tired. I just basically was not at the best physical health.
Yeah, your immune system was pretty much shutting down pretty often, and you were getting sick a lot.
Yeah.
And it was just, and what's so funny is, and it's not really funny, but like, I kid you not, and I would see you, and I just had no idea. Like when you were in front of me, nothing. Like I could not tell you. And sometimes I reflect back on it to try to see if there was like sneaky moments where I'm noticing if you're extra tired and things like that. And even when you were like, when we fast forward to like the wedding process, I did know by the time we needed to get married.
At
Everyone,
that
but
point,
like,
yeah.
but really, even then, I, I still reflect on the symptoms and like how bad or good it was. You really handled yourself really well. The fatigue got worse at some moments, but we don't have to go into the details. But for the most part, I would say like you held your own. I was none the wiser of what you were experiencing. Now, the conversation surrounding lupus is vast. It's not primarily seen in males, and as a result, it's not widely studied. Discoid lupus affects appearance, as Jamal has described and would continue to talk about throughout the podcast. But there is a chance of it developing into systematic lupus. That would cause issue with organs and subsequently quality of life. Alhamdulillah, with God's protection, that is not an issue for us now, nor was it when we were talking to each other. But in the back of my mind, that was something I was thinking about. In the back of Jamal's mind, he thought about coming as his best self, and the physical changes that resulted from his autoimmune disease affected his ability to come confidently to me.
And as I'm getting to know Samia, I'm experiencing baldness. I'm going in and out of the hospital. I am not feeling the best that I could feel. But I need to look the best. I need to feel the best if I want to get with Samia. And as I'm getting to know her, obviously, I'm hiding most of this. I don't want her to know about my insecurities. I don't want her to know about what problems I'm dealing with at the time. So I'm keeping the secret away from her. I'm wearing a hat pretty much all the time because I don't want her to see me balding. Keep in mind, most people in my family, everyone in my family, all the males, they have full set of hair, you know? But here I am having irregular balding patterns.
No, really, yeah.
At my mid 20s, I'm having irregular bald patterns and I'm always wearing a hat. It also didn't make me feel good knowing that lupus is mostly diagnosed to like middle-aged women, you know?
Yeah.
So when I found that out, I told my dermatologist, I said, "Are you sure? Can you double check, do some more tests?" But at that point, we're 3 tests into it. They already have all the evidence to
Three
prove.
tests in, several specialists,
Yeah,
general docs,
yeah.
yeah.
So it's like it's confirmed. It is, it is what it is. That's what you got. And that made me feel like as if I wasn't whole in a sense. I felt like because I was sick, I had some sort of disease, I couldn't perform to the best of my abilities, or I couldn't perform in a way that Samia would be happy with it. Like as if I'm lacking something, I'm missing something, So eventually, Sam kind of caught up a little bit
Yeah.
and she knew what was going on. When I finally had to tell you that I had lupus, when I couldn't hide it anymore, the pressure of hiding the symptoms got too much, and I had basically no other option but to be vulnerable and to let you know that this is what I was dealing with. At first, I felt super nervous because I wasn't too sure how you would react, but more importantly, I wasn't too sure how you would react to me keeping a secret away from you, especially a secret that inherently affects both of us. Affects me because I'm dealing with the illnesses, but then also affects you because you're experiencing life with me. Like all of the symptoms that I gotta deal with, you inadvertently have to deal with that as well because I'm your partner. So when I was first expressing this to you, keep in mind that the only other person who knew about this was my mom, my barber. Like they were the first people to know. And when I told you, and I saw your reaction, because you were interested in it, you know, you cared. From when I told you about it to the next moment that I saw you, you had already worked up a diet plan, like so that it can lower the symptoms of lupus, of the flare-ups that I have to deal with. You went out of your way and you even got me some nice, cute hats, and you made me feel comfortable because you were like the first person I told to, other than my mom and my barber. You basically gave me the confidence to start telling other people about it. You know, you gave me the ability to accept myself for who I am, despite whatever issues I may have or the issues that I'm dealing with. And that was a pivotal moment for me because it inherently was what I was searching for. I was searching for a companion that understands my troubles, that is there for me when I'm going through like a tough time. And I never wanted to be a burden. So I would keep the secret away from a lot of people. But when I told you and I saw that you actively worked to make life easy for me, to make it convenient for me, that's when I realized, oh wow, I love this woman. Not only does she make me feel comfortable, not only does she make me feel safe, but she's going out of her way to show that she loves me. She is inherently filling in that void, that gap that I was looking for.
It's kind of ironic to hear you say that the moment you loved me was when I was doing something for you. And it's funny because we started this whole thing with saying like you knew love because someone did something for you.
Yeah.
So in a weird roundabout way, you kind of started and ended with thinking about love in the same kind of way. Obviously, I know there's things about me that you like, but for the purpose of the story, it does make sense for how pivotal, how transformative it must have been for you to kind of be like, huh, you know what? Action does still matter. We've talked about words of affirmation, we've talked about the way in which, my certain personality styles, the way I speak and the way I talk has, really changed your life. But at the end of the day, actions, for lack of a better word, did speak louder than words.
Yeah. Seeing your actions, seeing the thought and care that you put in is my love language. And to see you perform it for me was a sign that I was meant to be with you. You were meant to be with me.
This last part of the podcast, I wasn't going to originally include, as it was just Jamal summarizing to me how much it meant for him to share, and how, in sharing with me, it allowed him to feel more open to the people around him, to share with more family and friends. But I think it was beautiful how he put his words together, and I hope you all enjoy it.
It was never an expectation for you to take care of me, nor do I want it to come across that you doing things for me meant that you loved me. But I'll be lying to you if I didn't say that I was genuinely surprised about how you were. Up to that point, I've only told my barber and my mother, like literally just them two. And those were like a matter of fact kind of conversation. Like, I need to tell you, you know? But when I had told you, and like I said, you ran with it and did all these things without being asked, without expecting me to give you some reaction. I knew that true love, the essence of love, was you. And like you said, this is honestly a full circle moment because up until that point, I knew and was taught that love was action. You had shown me the action and compassion. Now you also added to what I knew about love by showing me words and how we can describe and feel this theatrical love. I realized that in being vulnerable, I opened myself up to an experience that I prayed for during my deepest loneliness. Because being vulnerable with you allowed me to be vulnerable with everyone else in my life. I was able to accept the diagnosis. I was able to work with the physicians, and lupus was no longer this hidden secret, to not have any barriers. And the physical changes that I experienced aren't things I have to deal with as much today. And I genuinely thank you for being a part of my life.
I love you.
I love you more.
And that